One of the things we want to find out is, or talk about, this has been a story the last couple of days. Can Kadarius Toney actually end up being a number one wide receiver in Kansas City? Not by default, but can he actually take that role and embody a number one wide receiver the way everybody else understands the term?
Let's define wide receiver one. Let's go back and define this thing called wide receiver one.
Okay.
Personally, I think there's 15 or 20 of them in the NFL. It's not like the highest.
So you're not simply.
It's not the receiving yards leader.
Right. On the team.
Yeah. I mean, if we're saying he's wide receiver one, he's in this league of, from A.J. Brown and Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams all the way down to who's the worst wide receiver one. I think the Chargers guys, when healthy, are like fringe wide receiver one types. I mean, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen.
So simply leading a team in targets, yards, whatever total you want to put on it is not necessarily an achievement for wide receiver one throughout the NFL, because there are some teams where that's not an achievement. Having said that, if you were to be the leading target, yardage, touchdown guy in Kansas City, it means you have bigger numbers than Travis Kelce, which probably does act as a fair qualifier. Like if he comes out of next season and he has numbers that rival or beat Kelce's, he's a number one wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, you'd probably be able to make that point.
So, like, you could argue last season Juju was their number one wide receiver, right? And as you predicted, by the way.
I did. Got that. Did you get me lunch or something?
God, no, because you got everything else in the world wrong.
We'll go to Alabama's today.
But Juju had, in the regular season, 97 targets, 78 catches, 933 yards, and 3 touchdowns, which is a pretty miserable total for a wide receiver in today's NFL. But to beat Kelce, you need 151 targets, 111 catches, 1,339 yards, and 13 touchdowns. That's a wide receiver one by pretty much anybody's standards.
Look, I could see it happening. I mean, my instant reaction is, how did they use Kadarius Toney last year? I know they got him, in the middle of the season, and they didn't get to fully implement him. But he had during regular and postseason, 23 catches for just under 10 yards per catch, 3 touchdowns, a good receiving grade, 76, and they moved him around a bunch. There was a lot of gimmick stuff. Now, the similarities to Tyreek Hill could be, in 2016, that was what Tyreek Hill was. It was like, here's this super fast 5th rounder with running back skills and wide receiver skills, and he became their jet sweep, space player, satellite player. And that's what Kadarius Toney started out as. So if you want to make that comparison and say, okay, he's got a full offseason with Mahomes and the Chiefs and all that stuff, Kadarius Toney is going to be the wide receiver one. They do lose Juju's 88 catches and 1,000+ yards, but I don't think anybody, Juju put up good numbers, but nobody was like, oh, he's a wide receiver one. It's just he's a receiver with the Chiefs.
Yeah.
They had all these undefined roles last year, which I think made the offense so good, that Juju worked mostly underneath stuff. Valdez-Scantling was your deep threat. Justin Watson, before you know it, became a random deep threat too, where they had shot plays. I think they're going to run the offense like that. Travis Kelce is going to be your high volume guy, and then everyone else is just kind of being a part of the offense, and that made Mahomes better. Just saying, here, find the open guy. I don't know if Toney's going to be like a force-fed number one, if that's part of the question.
I mean, in 7 games last season with the Chiefs, he had 16 targets on 171 yards. It would take a massive seismic shift in what he's doing in his deployment to be a number one wide receiver for them.
3.5 average depth of target. So like I said, they could say, hey, we've done this with Tyreek Hill before, where we turned him from gimmick player into top receiver, but I wouldn't compare Toney to Tyreek Hill. All that said, Toney had that one game.
Yeah.
Had that one game,
against Dallas.
As a rookie against Dallas in 2021, where he was a high volume, 10 catches, looked like a superstar. For one game, maybe Kansas City could unlock that.
That's the thing where I think you sort of look and say, all right, if we talk conceptually about what a number one wide receiver is, to me it's less about targets and volume, and it's more about, can you win at all levels of the field? Can you win from all alignments? Like, that's a number one wide receiver to me. You think of any of these guys, Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, whoever the number one wide receiver you want to talk about is, Jamar Chase, and you say, can they win from everywhere? Can they win at all levels? Can they win in all alignments? The answer is yes to all of them, right? Every one of those guys wins in a variety of different ways, and that's what makes them a number one wide receiver. I think Toney does have that capacity. Now, again, we haven't seen it as much as those other guys, but you look from a skill set standpoint and what he's good at, what he struggles with, he's got the size, he's got the quickness, he's got the speed. He can do all that. We saw it in that Dallas game. You could make him into that number one wide receiver. But with Kansas City, I feel like it's just a repeat of the conversation we had last year where we were trying to predict who their primary receiver would be. Travis Kelce's their number one receiver, but who's going to lead the team in terms of wide receiver numbers? Will it be Juju? Will it be Sky Moore? Will it be Marquez Valdes-Scantling? I think he has the ability to lead that, to be the Juju guy, like get 900 yards, a couple of touchdowns, 50, 75 catches, something like that. I don't think there's any real chance that he overhauls Travis Kelce.
The other interesting thing is there's another cat and mouse game here with the NFL, where last year at this time it's like, oh boy, can the Chiefs ever adjust to too high? The team's taking away their deep ball and all that stuff, and they answered by having more yards after the catch than any team in NFL history or whatever it was last year. And Mahomes played a cleaner brand of football, took everything underneath. Was it Tony on both touchdowns in the Super Bowl where they were just wide open on that return, the return jet sweep return motion thing? I mean, it's the scheme plus Mahomes and the execution and all that stuff, right? That adds up to they're really, really good. So how does the NFL respond now? Are they going to start playing it a little bit tighter? Where, again, Valdes-Scantling was a good deep threat, as he has been. Justin Watson averaged over 19 yards per catch. He's a pretty good athlete who could get down the field. But you're still not looking at the Chiefs receivers and afraid of them. But it's the combination of Mahomes is going to find the open guy, and Andy Reid's going to give him open guys to throw to that make them difficult. But you're not looking at this receiving core saying, I'm afraid of this group. So I want to see how the NFL comes back and if they challenge them a little bit. But I think the Chiefs just have obviously such a well-rounded group where Tony and Sky Moore and Valdes-Scantling all have their own skills here. Add Rashee Rice to the mix here. I think they're going to spread the wealth, and if Tony led the receivers in yards, no, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I think he definitely has the capacity to replace that Juju role and be their leading receiver, wide receiver, which will be a secondary threat in that offense to Travis Kelce. So I think he's probably the front runner to do that, right?
Walt is pretty convinced that Travis Kelce is like Tom Brady. He'll be able to play forever. That he's going to be 34 this year, Kelce. Yeah. I don't think there was a point where it looked like maybe he had lost a step a little bit, but I don't think that. I think he's gotten it back.
He's gotten it back.
You know what I mean? I think he's fine. I've seen. We have some.
You don't often see people find a step after they lose the step.
Well, you thought Tom Brady lost something in 2013. He found it again.
But he hadn't lost a step. He just lost the ability to play well for a while.
Yeah. Well, it depends on which tracking numbers you're potentially looking at. But athleticism-wise, we have some numbers that say Travis Kelce's been the same guy over the last 4 years. He still just looks a step faster than everybody else trying to cover him, much like Mahomes. I don't know how they have that ability. They're just a step faster than everybody when they need to be, when they run. But that's like the next test, I think, for Mahomes. Last year, I thought, hey, losing Tyreek Hill is a test. Passed it perfectly. What happens when they do lose Kelce just a little bit, and you don't have? He's still such an X factor for that team that opens up everything else. So,
yeah, I mean they don't have an alternative to that. They're going to need one at some stage. As much as he doesn't look like he's slowing down right now, it has to happen. It's sooner or later. Otherwise, it would be absurd. Like he's 10 months younger than Gronk, who's been retired twice, including for a year already. At some stage, he should start slowing down.